Look, I haven't even opened anything yet. Today I'm going to be setting up the first quarter in my MakseLife Companion Notebook. If you also got the MakseLife Companion Notebooks and you're looking for inspiration for how you're going to set yours up, then this video is probably something that you are going to be interested in. Oh wow, these feel so nice. And it smells so good. Oh, that new paper smell. Okay, see if I can slip this out. Awesome. So this one is the instruction book. So I'm gonna just set this one to the side because I am not gonna be working on that one today. And I do need to decide which one I'm gonna use for the beginning. I think maybe the just to begin seems appropriate. Let's see. Trust the timing of your life. Good things take time. Your only limit is your mind. I think I'm gonna do the just begin first, just because. Just begin. Okay, I'm gonna set these off to the side. And I love that this says purposeful living, because that's exactly what I got this goal setting system for. I have tried MakseLife before. I tried it in the beginning of 2022. I had got some insert and I did that for about 4 months. This go around, I'm going into it with the mindset more of using it as a tool for purposeful living. Not so much like how many goals can I cram into the month and check off as completed, because I'm not trying to create a whole bunch of things to do just for the sake of goal setting. That's kind of where I made a mistake last year, is I set too many. I'm going to be a little bit more intentional this time around. Here's the cute little, I'll probably stick this on my water bottle. I picked up this notepad, but I do not plan on doing anything with it in today's video, so I'm gonna set this off to the side. This we are going to need. These are the weekly coaching tip stickers, and this came free with my order, the year-end reflections. Again, I'm not going to be doing anything with this one because I'm not ready to do this yet, so I'm just going to set this off to the side. So these are the weekly coaching tips, and there are 53 stickers in here. Each sticker contains a weekly coaching tip featured in the signature MakseLife planner, and because the companion notebooks are undated, the weekly coaching tips are not in here. So they came up with these stickers that you can have to stick in the undated planners. So I'm gonna put this off, hold on to the side. I'm gonna need, let's see, we're gonna need the first couple weeks. Let me just grab these first 3 pages and I'll put those off to the side. And okay, so there are gonna be like 5 weeks in each month in here. Oh, this feels so nice. This is nice. I can do that all day. These are perforated. So what I'm gonna do is today I'm going to put the stickers on, and I'm going to date these weekly action pages, and I'm also going to date these month pages. And oh, there's lines in the back. Oh, a lot of line notes in the back. Sweet. And I'm gonna rip out the extra week that ends up being, if there's any extra weeks. So I found these from Planner Kate. I don't know if they did this last year, but it must have been requested. So these are the weeks for 2023. I saw this and I was like, hey, I could totally use these to date my weekly actions. Because last year it was kind of annoying that I had to write in like what the date was for it. And when I saw these, I was like, these are perfect. So that solves that problem. And looky here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in January, 5 weeks. There's only 4 weeks in February. Actually, this one, yeah, this one's 4. Okay, that's 5. I'm counting. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4 in March. And this should be just January, February, March. So I need to pull out a week from February and pull out a week from March. And it's gonna have to be like in the middle. I can't pull it out because of the way the pages are. I couldn't pull, I guess I could just pull the first one of it. That would be the best way probably, because I wouldn't be able to pull the last one because it bumps up against the monthly reflection. Yeah, so if I just pulled out one of these, so it would need to be in February and March. So let's just start with dating the January weekly actions, which technically, should I start with the January weekly actions? I think I'll start with just dating this calendar. Let me date this calendar real quick. And I found these cute month stickers from Monarch Plans. I placed the order with them not that long ago, and I found these and I was like, oh, these are going to be perfect for my MakseLife. So I've got these ready. I'm going to stick that like right there to date the month. And I have these from Knockout Print Shop that coordinate with the months of like MakseLife, I guess. So mixed 1 and 2. I'm assuming this is January, February. Nope, doesn't. How am I gonna do this? Because I thought that it was gonna coordinate with the Moxie colors depending on which month it was, like in order on the sheet, but that's not the case. So I guess I'm gonna have to figure out on my own what colors I want to be what month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's 12 months. So I'll figure that out. We'll have to figure that out, what I'm going to use for January. Probably a blue, because there seems to be a lot of blues. This one's like orange. This one's probably October. I'm going to have to write on the side of these to figure out which ones I want to be when. This one looks like a gray. See, those are all the same colors rotated. So then I have like, I'm overthinking this, aren't I? I definitely would like probably the red to be February. January can be a blue, and then March will be green. I'll do that. I guess I'll start with this sheet then, because this could be February, this could be January, and this could be March. January, February, March. All right, that's what I'm doing. January. Gotta start with this one. I'm gonna give them a little tweezers. These came in that seasonal surprise box over the summer from Air Condren. It came with that little like nail kit, and I found these don't work very well for actually plucking hair off my eyebrows, but it works really well for stickers. Let's go. I've got my 2023 calendar right here, so it's a reference. So what I'm thinking about doing for this month view is I am thinking about doing like a affirmation a day on here, because I technically don't need another month view for anything. So I haven't done affirmations, daily affirmations in a little while. I was using the JMB Living journal, the winter 2022 and the spring 2022. And then when the kids got off school for the summer, I knew leading up to it, our schedule and our routine was going to change, and I was no longer gonna have that like morning reflection time where I journaled in the morning, and I decided to put it down. And in the J&B Living Journal, there's a spot for affirmation every day. So I thought maybe this would be a good spot for it, and it would just be like one thing, like rather than like an entire journal page. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm not looking for this to be like perfect and pretty. It would literally be like me opening it in the morning and sitting down for just like a minute or two to reflect on what affirmation I want for that day, and I'm just writing it in here. So I don't think I'm going to get too fancy. I might like highlight or use like a mild liner to maybe draw lines before I write my affirmation. That might be as fancy as I get. I'm not going to pressure myself to doing this, because I think that's where it gets overwhelming when like the new year starts, and especially if you're starting a new planner or a new system, or you're changing something. If you're changing too many different things at one time, then it just becomes like too much. It's like too much for your brain to keep up with. I think we beat ourselves up whenever, we set these like things that we're gonna do, and we don't take into the account like the fact that we just set ourselves up with like 5 new habits when we really should have been just starting with 1. And so that's really the real reason why we didn't follow through, is because we set too many to begin with. And so adding MakseLife back in is like the one thing that is changing about my system, really. The other things I'm doing have basically been the same. The weekly planning and the daily planning and having like a content planner. So the addition of the MakseLife is really just, once I like stepped out of it in March, it kind of felt weird I think I missed the sitting down and like figuring out what my action steps were going to be for the week, even though like the action steps were supposed to be like coordinated with the goals. And I found that like I didn't have a place anymore for me to almost like brain dump and think through what needed to happen in the week, if that makes any sense. And so since like leaving the system, the goals, like the monthly goals and the annual goal thing, like that hasn't been something I necessarily miss or have continued doing. It's been more like the weekly actions and probably the weekly reflections too that I've missed a little bit, because again, like that kind of forced me to sit down, and there goes my dryer beeping if you can hear it. It forced me to sit down and kind of think through how I want the week to go, and then how like last week went. And so I'm looking forward to going back into this, but with a different mindset, because I'm like a completely different person. I think we all are. Year over year, we are different people, and it'll be interesting to see how I go through this system now compared to last year. And I'm not going to be busting out my last year ones to compare it and sit down and see like what's that, the wheel chart, to bust out and compare the wheel chart that I had filled out last year. I'm not going to get that out and like compare it. The life compass, that's what it's called. I'm not going to be going and looking at what mine looked like last year before working on this. I'm actually going to do these 2022 reflections first. I'm going to start working on these over the next like couple of weeks to help prepare me for this work for the goals, because this I'm already familiar with because I did this last year. This, on the other hand, is new, and I'm really like curious to see what this uncovers for me that maybe shifts how I goal set. So that'll be interesting to do, and maybe I will film that. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in seeing how I go through my year-end reflections. Okay, so I have January dotted, and like part of me wants to put something else over here and not just lay this on it. Maybe I can find some kind of sticker. Hold please. Okay, so I found these, and even though these are technically color coordinated for the Erin Condren planner, I think these will work perfect. Perhaps I can stick them underneath the I can stick that over it. And even, I don't think any of these are too big. Yeah, none of these are too big. These are perfect for it. So let's see, we'll do this like blue one. And let me just stick it over here first. I almost feel like I need to use my tweezers so I can get it lined up right. Oh, that looks so cute. Okay. Is that too far? That's too far, right? This is why I need the tweezers, so I can see. I think that's good. So I can see what I'm doing. Okay. So do I line it up like this? See? Tweezers. Can't see. This is about center. It's not that serious, Lauren. So let's see. Which one will be February? Will be the pink one. So let's go ahead and put these on there now, so I don't have to worry about that. I think I moved. I need to scooch a hair. Huh. February and March. We'll do this one, right? Let's see. Yeah, March. Actually, March almost looks better. Yeah, this one would be, that one probably would be better with that one. I feel like March will go, this is supposed to be like December in Erin Condren land. I have another green. This green? That green. I feel like that green goes better. We're gonna do that green for March. March. I think this font's so cute. Okay. Let's go to, all right, what did I say? There's 5 in January, because technically this first weekly actions is going to be for December 26th to January 1st. So this would be the first week. And then, yeah, and then February is this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one I don't need to worry about. So where I'm gonna stick these, I don't have enough for me to use these under it. I might swatch with a marker. And what marker color will I use? I feel like doing like a darker one, a dark gray. Let me write this on something. It goes under it. I feel like if it's gonna cover it, like it's not, I'd have to do 2 lines like this in order for it to, and then the sticker it'll show the gray under it. I'm thinking about the fact that having the sticker in the same spot throughout the whole book is going to make a bump in the book. I might alternate where I put the sticker. So maybe for January I can stick it, maybe I can put it right here covering the MakseLife. I'd hate to cover up the MakseLife. I'm not trying to like be like, I don't want to see what this is, but that might be an okay spot for the date. No, maybe not. Maybe way at the bottom. Actually, way at the bottom is not a bad idea. Way at the bottom, and right here at the very top. Maybe even like on this side or that side. I feel like more this side fits than that one because of the corner, the way it's rounded. Let me start with it just being like right here, and I think I'm gonna do the swatch under it. Although I think this gray is too dark. I think I'll do, this one might be, probably better. How white is this? About right there. No turning back. Let's see. Kind of white enough. Not really white enough. That's okay. There. Just enough to make it kind of stand out a little bit. And it's probably crooked. And I don't care. Oh, this is gonna make things so much easier. So I'm going to speed through real quick and get these down. Okay, so now I have January, the weekly reflections on here. I mean the weekly actions dated. And let me go ahead and stick on the coaching tips. Let's see how big those are and how those are going to look. So first week of the year, let's see. So it'll go on here. And see about how many. It's gonna take up about 4 boxes. 4 boxes. It feels like it's gonna go across the whole bottom. I could alternate these also and do like the bottom and the top instead of putting them all on the bottom, because that's probably gonna like bulk it up. We'll have to see. Okay. Sorry you couldn't see me counting earlier. Zoom out. This definitely requires this. I can't remember if I'm using the dots to line it up. I can't remember if my inserts from last year had coaching tips on them printed. I don't know. I want to say it did, but I don't know. I'd have to like go back and look and see. But the thing with these tips, Sierra has them like assigned based on the week, and she's like purposely created the tips to where, let's say when you get to like March, you're probably going to start dwindle and not want to work on your goals. And so there's some like, the tip for that is going to kind of help push you in the right direction so that you don't just quit, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's why I wanted to make sure I got these coaching tips so that I had them in here. And I knew that like setting this all up at once, if I didn't do this, then I would not do it during the week. I know I wouldn't like have the time to just sit down and just go in here and date the things, or you know what I mean? So I wanted to do the whole quarter and not just like a month at a time. I wanted to do the entire quarter so that I had no excuses about nothing that would like stop me. And I'm not reading these. I'm trying not to read them. Make sure I read them when it gets to that week. Although I'm sure if I read them now and I get to that week, I probably would have forgotten it by then, but these are not meant to be read all. Oops, almost did it upside down. These are not meant to be read until it gets to that week, so that's what I'm gonna try and do. Now, if you've been using MakseLife for a while and you use this reflection page, do you find yourself looking at the weekly coaching tips that are there, or how about, did you do like I did and you got the weekly coaching tips and you've used them before? How'd that work out for you? I'd like to hear that, because I really feel like they were there last year and I don't think I really paid much attention to them. I don't know. Because I had the undated inserts, I think that they weren't there. Because you would think that I probably wouldn't have stopped using it. But I don't think it was necessarily like the MakseLife part. It was more like the planner itself, like the structure I had. I had like tried to do away without like having a daily planner, and that just didn't work. So it didn't work long term. Okay, I had to stop filming because I had to take a call from my husband, and then I decided to just charge my phone up because it was dying. I went ahead and finished setting down all the stickers in here. So here is February with the little pink dots. And for the weekly actions, I went ahead and I ripped out the first one in February because February only had 4 weeks. So I stuck the extra page here in the back, and I will likely go ahead and start using these sometime in December. I will probably go ahead and go through the second quarterly notebook and rip out the extras in there so that I can, when I had the inserts last year that were undated, I was able to pull out and use, I had gotten a 6 month undated, and so out of that 6 month undated, I was able to start like a whole month early my planning, because the way like the weeks fell, it ended up working out that way because they give you 5 weeks for each month. And that's what I'm hoping to be able to do with this system, is I should be able to start working on my weekly actions in December, like how I did last year. And that way I'm kind of like getting in the habit of doing just the weekly actions portion, not worrying about like monthly goals or anything else like that until January actually starts. So that worked out really well for me last year, because it's like kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where if you start too many new things at once, it feels overwhelming. And so I know that with MakseLife, they encourage you that like if it like feels overwhelming or anything, you don't know where to start, to just jump into the weekly actions and start there. And that's what I did last year, was because I had the extra, because I had it undated and I had like enough extra that I could start in December instead of waiting till January. I did that where I focused on the weekly actions for a few weeks, got into the groove of that, and got into the groove of doing the weekly reflections, and then jumped into the actual like goals in January once that started. So I moved the sticker. Remember I talked about how like there would probably be a bump over time. So instead of putting it here for the whole book, I moved it to here for for February. And then for March, I moved it down here, and that worked out well. And I went ahead and put all the weekly coaching tips. So this is basically bare bones, ready for me to go when 2023 starts. I did want to show you some of the stickers that I grabbed to use on the weekly reflections pages. I likely won't use stickers like every week, but I did pick up some that I liked, and these are from Monarch Plans. These were too cute not to get. So I've got like enough for 5 weeks of those. And then Knockout Print Shop has some, and these I got in like 2 colorways. They have a colorway that's called light mixed and just mixed, and I actually like the way the light version turned out better than the dark versions of these. But each sheet, as you can see, has like enough for several weeks. So that's why I ended up grabbing them, was because I could 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 8 weeks. 8 weeks of reflections. The gratitudes I might not use on my reflections page. Like I said, I was going to try and do I was going to try and do like affirmations on the month view. I might not do these like gratitude ones, but that's just how Knockout does them. So I have 8 of this color and then 8 in the light. So what's that, 16 more weeks? So I'm good for, actually this will carry me over because it ended up being 13 weeks for the first one. So I'll be able to like I have enough stickers for the first quarter for sure. And then if I want to get more stickers from other shops, if you have any recommendations for shops that do weekly reflections, go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know what they are. I don't know if I want to spend money like on a weekly basis on stickers, because I feel like it's not necessary to get the job done. I feel like sometimes when it comes to the stickering, if I don't do this ahead of time, I might not actually fill out my weekly reflections. So yeah, I remember when I was doing it last year, I didn't use stickers, not like specifically weekly reflections. Actually, I lie. I did buy like clear stickers that were words that had the like what worked, what didn't work, adjustments, those, and I used that a lot when I was doing my reflections. But like I said, I found that if I didn't set that page up like in the beginning of the week at the same time that I sat down to like work on the weekly actions, then I wouldn't reflect. Well, I would, but I wouldn't want to. Like what I need to do is like when I'm sitting down and trying to figure out this is what I want to do for the week, I needed to also like have the time carved out to work on the weekly reflections page, and like as far as like setting it up for this is where I'm going to put what worked, what didn't, and all that stuff. And then that way when the end of the week came, because obviously when the end of the week comes, it's time to also think about the next week, and I didn't want to have to also then draw out all this. Another thing too is that when it was like filled out in advance, as the week went on, because like my memory is not the best, as the week went on, because it was already set up, if I knew that like something was something that should be like a win for the week, I could go ahead and write it in here, like when the win happened or close to it, so that I didn't have to wait until the end of the week to remember to write it down. And that made it a little bit less stressful when it comes to like the reflections, if that makes any sense. So that's like one of the tips that I definitely would recommend, is like you set this page up early so that you can, as the week goes on, fill in like what worked as like you found out that this is what worked, rather than waiting until the very end of the week. And it also kind of puts you in the mindset of always thinking about things in that way. So then you're like constantly thinking, well, like what do I need to adjust, or well that didn't work, and then it helps you don't have to necessarily wait until like the week's over to make an adjustment. You could like make an adjustment on the fly because there are no rules. And that's just kind of like what I've learned in the past through MakseLife, and that's kind of how I'm going to approach it this go around. Definitely making sure like I fill this out in advance so that it doesn't feel as stressful. The other thing is like with the weekly actions, at some point I kind of like forgot and then I remembered again, but the way that these are designed is like the weekly actions are supposed to coordinate with your monthly goals, and obviously your monthly goals are supposed to kind of coordinate with what your annual goals are. So you look on when you're setting up your monthly goals, then you should be looking at your annual goals when you set up the month ones, because you want to make sure that if like one of your annual goals has something to do with a financial goal that you need to meet, then what progress do you need to make in that particular month that you're currently working on to make sure that at the end of the year you've reached like that goal. So with the weekly actions, I would forget to every week look at my month to kind of see what my month goals were. Sometimes this turned into like just like a to-do list and like a brain dump, and not necessarily anything that reflected what my actual goals and things are. So that is something that I want to make sure that I pay attention to, but also I don't want to overwhelm myself and fill out all these lines every week. That was something that bothered me last time, was that I was like putting too many things, too many actions, or putting like an action in there just because. This time around, I feel like I really like less is more, and so I'm going to really like what's the word I'm looking for? Pare things down and really like hyper focus. Like maybe each week I'll have a certain area that I really need to like, if like 1 week needs to heavily be focused on work related things or learning related things, then that kind of needs to be like the focus, and I don't need to stress myself about the other areas. And then like the following week I can be a little bit less, especially if there's not much in the way of like work and learning, then I can focus on another area that week, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's impossible for us to be balanced in each area of our life all the time. What I tend to feel works really well for me is, for example, if I have a day where I know it's going to be like a lot of stuff happening, then yes, that day is like not ideal for me. I do not like days that like have a lot of things happening. I don't like a schedule that's like one thing after another after another. It's not ideal for me. And so, but there's no way around it sometimes. So then the way I counter that and like balance it is I would schedule rest, a lot of rest in the days after it and the days before it or the days before it, knowing that I'm gonna need all the energy I can for that one day, and then I'm gonna need energy after that day's over if like that day really drained me. There's like no way of really knowing in advance like how the day is going to go, and that's why doing like having a rest before a crazy day and scheduling in like a rest for the next day after is good for me, because then it gives me that like flexibility to where if I do feel like I have energy the day after, then I can work with that. But if in advance I like put another crazy schedule after an already crazy day, then I like set myself up for like potentially not really having the right energy levels for that sort of thing. And then I probably will end up just ignoring a lot of things and then feeling like a failure because I had planned on all these things and didn't follow through. So I take that into consideration when I'm setting up like my goals and my weekly actions, that sort of thing, when I'm planning like my schedule and what I want to work on. And so I want to make sure that I do better about that when it comes to filling out the weekly actions this time around, because last time I, in some instances, like forced myself to like put something down just because, and it didn't actually make sense for me to like do that during that week. Like, you know what I mean? It didn't make sense. It didn't fit in that week. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the weeks are flexible enough to where, yeah, if there's something that you really want to do and you really want to add into your day, like you can put it in there. But I don't want to put something in there if the week already is not in a place where I can squeeze another thing in there. Even if anything, like the things that would get squeezed in, I try and make sure like I don't squash out or push off like my non-negotiables, which are like my daily yoga and my vitamins and my afternoon like reset, and then like the boundaries I have in place for like my phone use, to where I'm not using my phone after a certain hour of the day and that kind of thing. So like those are like my non-negotiables, and as long as like those things are there, like all the other stuff like doesn't matter as much, if that makes sense. So I think we all need to like figure out what those like things that absolutely have to happen in order for us to like stay sane and have the right energy levels to go after these other goals that we have, as opposed to sometimes it backwards, where we put in like, here's all these goals that we want, and then we realize, okay, I'm not taking care of myself, and I've pushed off like all these things that if I don't do these, my tank empties, and then I don't have the fuel to go on. So I hope that makes sense and encourages you in some way to approach the system, if this is like what you're going to be doing this year, to approach it in that kind of a way, and not so much of like, let's see if this goal setting system can help me do the most amount of things possible, which that should not ever be your goal. It's not mine. And I really don't think that anybody should like strive to be like, I'm going to do the most amount of things possible and that's how it's going to be. That might work for a season, but that's not sustainable long term. Anyway, I hope that like watching me set this up and then getting some tips for using it was helpful for you today. And I will go ahead and do another one of these setups for the second quarter, and I'll discuss like how the first quarter went. I'm still undecided as far as like if I'm going to keep the actions in the book because they are perforated. I could technically rip them out and like stick them with my other planner, and that way I think I'm just going to try and see first with them in here and then go from there. I pretty much have a good setup here on my kitchen counter. It's where my planning takes place. I don't have a desk or an office, and I have like a little setup in the middle of the island where I keep my planners, and having this like next to the planner should be good enough. I just need to make sure that the order in which I do things is I sit down and do my weekly actions before I sit down and create my week in my weekly planner, so that I can make sure that my weekly actions are scheduled in my week, and then I can look at my week. I'll look at like that day, because I use a daily planner in the morning or in the night before, just depends on how busy the day is. I will pull the week out, look at that day, what I had planned, and transfer it over to my daily planner and go from there. So hopefully that's how I feel like it'll work for me. I don't know that I necessarily need to look at the weekly actions every single day and make sure I'm doing them. I feel like as long as I write it down in here and then make sure all the weekly actions are carried over into my weekly planner and like scheduled in there in some way, then there shouldn't be any need for me to like pick this up again until it's time for me to do my weekly reflections at the end of the week, and then do it all over again with setting my new weekly actions. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed and you want to make sure that you don't miss the next time I do a MakseLife setup, then go ahead and make sure you are subscribed. And I'll see you next time. Bye.